Hey guys, Jessica here. So some of you will have already seen that I have a video on the Baby Buddha pump and wearable cups, comparing all of the wearable cups that I have in my office, which is probably 99% of what is on the market, to how they perform with the Baby Buddha. So today we're going to do the Pumpables Genie Advanced at the request of the viewers on this channel. So what we're going to do is we are literally going to go through our bins of cups. And we're just going to go one by one in whatever order they come out. And I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are for this pump and what you should consider. Maybe it's a good fit, maybe it's not. This pump pairs really well with most cups on the market. This is one of my top 2 portable pumps that I consistently recommend. I absolutely love this pump. So let's dive in and go through these cups and what I think that they are things you can consider. Okay, so first up is a Peru cup. This is sold with another portable pump on Amazon. It's a pretty good fit with it. It doesn't have the smoothest suction. I do feel like the diaphragm gets a little stuck with the Pumpables Genie Advance, but it's a decent enough option. It gets good enough suction that I don't think it's doing anything to it. I wouldn't necessarily run out to buy this cup. I do like the way that this attaches on the top. So for some people who've had a hard time with other attachments, this is a little bit more secure than some of them. So it might be something to consider. And if you already have this cup because you bought the pump but don't love the pump, you might try pairing it with your Genie Advance. Next up, this is our Arto cup. This is a fairly generic cup. There are several cups that I'm going to pull out today that look almost identical to this because it's literally just a generic cup. It does reasonably well with the Genie Advance. It is the most basic of basic silicone flange cups. One of the things I love with this is that you can get sized flanges. So instead of having to have a separate insert, you can get a size flange that's compatible with this. So for some people, even reducing just one extra part that they have to wash can be a benefit. So definitely something to consider. This is it's a Cara Cup Lozi Eve. It's not the Spectre Cara Cups. It's the Lozi Eve Cara Cup. Pumpables Genie Advanced. This one is just too heavy. Let me see if I can even get this off. It likes to stick really bad. This is too heavy. It's kind of clunky. I'm going to give this one a no. The Genie Advanced, it's small, it's portable, it's light. It's designed for ways that moms want to pump. This just isn't really designed for the way anyone wants to pump. So I'm going to give that one a no. This is your most standard Famfi cup. It's available on Amazon. It tends to be fairly cheap. Really great range of motion with this one because the air hole is actually a little bit further back, so you get less chance of leakage. Pretty good cup, gets really good suction with Pumpables Genie Advance. It's hard to say too much about it because it just works. This is your Unimom Zomi cups. They work really well with the Pumpables Genie Advance. I feel like this is a really smooth, comfortable pumping experience. It just does what it's supposed to do. Again, not a lot to say because not a lot of drama there, which I love. These are old school Famfi cups. I have seen them on sale on Amazon here recently. They have a little bit of a wider curve, but they come in and out of stock because these are not the cups that are primarily sold here in the US anymore. But I do love the angle on this, so if you ever come across these are a great option, and they did work really well with the Pumpables Genie Advance. These were really popular. They got sold on Black Friday a couple years ago with a pump that was like 20 bucks. It was an insane deal. It worked really well with the Genie Advance. Always has, always will. So it was called a Goddess Cup. I will have to look up the name for you. It's in my guide to wearable cups. It is a one-piece flange. Let me pull this out and show you. This is going to be the closest you can get to the flanges that are the liquid flanges with the Genie Advance with this in a cup. It's not my favorite pairing though with the Genie Advance because works really well if you are somebody who uses higher suction on the Genie Advance and lower cycle speeds. If you're down on the lower cycle speeds, it kind of just absorbs it and makes it feel like it's buzzing versus pumping. So if you're up on the higher side and you're like, man, I really wish I had that compression, this might be something good to consider. This is a Tovlid cup off of Amazon. I actually do not love this one with the Genie Advance. The diaphragm likes to get stuck. I think the way that the suction enters here just doesn't agree with the Genie Advance. Not everything is a good pairing. Just because you can hook it up doesn't mean that it's going to work really well. Some people will not have a problem with that. They may be using the lower suction. They may be doing just fine with it, but on the higher suction, I felt like it kept getting stuck. And then when it gets stuck, we lose suction. So this was just not on my like recommended list when I was doing the pressure testing. This is one of the original Zomi cups. These were a hard plastic flange versus the silicone. This one did okay with the Genie Advanced. This cup just wasn't, this cup was designed for the Zomi Z2 with that really fast, short, fluttery suction. It just doesn't really perform super well with the Genie Advanced. It's not anything that you want to go out and purchase. If you have it, great, pull it out, dust it off, give it a try. But probably not anything you necessarily need. Okay, next cup. Now we're getting into some of the more popular ones and the more well-known ones. This is an LV Stride cup. This is a dream pairing with the Pumpables Genie Advanced. Moms have been taking the LV Stride motor if it wasn't strong enough for them and switching to the Pumpables Genie Advanced or the Baby Buddha, depending on if they needed vibration or not, for the last several years. These have been a dream pairing. These are always going to be some of my favorite cups on the market because they are so slim. And I love how leak-proof they are. The only air hole is up here and it's super tiny, so you get a really good range of motion. So definitely one that I recommend with this. This is a Rumble Tough cup. I absolutely love Rumble Tough cups with the Genie Advance. I don't necessarily love these with the Baby Buddha, and in that video I called out the fact that they reduce the suction, so I like them when I'm using it for a hack, but for the average mom, it reduces it a little too much. This does not have any suction loss with Pumpables Genie Advance. It does a really great job. And again, this is one of the most leak-proof cups on the market because this little rubber stopper is not 100% airtight, but you're not getting splashes through here. You would have to be essentially standing on your head to really have any issues. I would say this is a good one to consider. I absolutely love the way these cups go together. They're very easy to clean, they're very easy to assemble, and they're relatively inexpensive. So definitely one to consider. This is our traditional Freey cup. I don't think the Genie Advance and the traditional Freey cups have really been like a star pairing. I get lots of complaints of not getting enough suction, not loving how this fits. I mean, this is one of the original cups and it definitely has gotten upgrades over the years. We're going to talk about its upgraded version next. But this is one that, you know, if you have it, great. But if you don't run out and buy it. This is just really, it's an older cup and it doesn't perform as well as most of the modern ones that we have now. So, yeah, if you have it, great. If not, I wouldn't sweat it. Okay, this is the Freey Slims. They come in a 5, they come in a 6. One is pink, one is blue. The only difference is whether it holds 5 or 6 ounces. The parts are not entirely interchangeable other than the duckbill. Everything else is going to be proprietary to the parts. They do reasonably well with the Genie Advance, but they do cut the suction. So it is going to be about a 20% suction loss. But the Genie Advance is strong enough that a lot of people can just bump up and they can go a little bit slower to get that strength that they need. But look how slim this is. It literally just disappears and it's wide enough that it blends into a wider variety of breasts than some of our more like dome-shaped ones. So definitely great for discreet pumping. I think they're a decent pairing. Does reduce suction a little bit. So if you're somebody who's like, Pumpable Genie Advance is just almost not strong enough, skip this one. It's not going to do you any favors. This is the Lano cup. It does okay with the Pumpables Genie Advance unless you go up on the higher settings. This cup was designed for lower suction, faster speed. So when you try and pair it with the Genie Advance on its higher settings, it tends to pull this diaphragm out of place just a little bit. Does cause a little bit of a loss of suction. Just not my favorite pairing unless you are on the lower side. The advantage of this is that it is 3 parts to wash, which is phenomenal. And it's cheap. We love cheap. This is an Amani cup. It does reasonably well with the Genie Advance. It's, again, not a lot to say about it because it's a fairly generic cup. I do like that this one is clear. It does give us a little bit more visibility than other ones. It does really well with most inserts. Again, not a lot of drama because it just does what it's supposed to do, which is a good thing when you're pumping. Spectre cups. This cup is one of our larger capacity cups. It's an 8 ounce. It tends to do really, really well with the Genie Advance because the Genie Advance does really well with Spectre parts. So it's because the backflow protectors are very similar to the liquid kit. So this is just a variation where you're able to keep the same backflow protector that the pump is really, truly designed for. It is a hard plastic cup. It's one of our originals on the market and it hasn't needed to adapt because it got it right the first time. This is a really good pairing with it, especially for oversuppliers. I feel like this one is a little bit more user-friendly than some of the silicone ones, unless you find that you're uncomfortable with the hard plastic. And then we've got the Legendary. See, we've got so many cups, I'm starting to get confused when I pull them out of the bin. I have to take a minute, so bear with me. This is a Legendary cup. My only complaint with this cup with the Genie Advance is that the adapter is a little clunky, and now that we have other cups on the market, this is one where I'm hoping Legendary is going to make a modification to the way that their cups hook up in order to kind of keep up with what the consumer demand is, because suction-wise, it does pair really well with the Genie Advance. Definitely want to consider. This is, again, one of our larger ones, but it does have a silicone front. I will say that the suction between this one and the Zomi Unimom cup is going to be functionally the same with the Pumpables Genie Advance. They're essentially the same cup with a slightly different hookup connection. So the backflow protectors are so close to identical that it doesn't matter with this pump. And then we've got our Mom Cozy V1, V2 cups. I actually don't dislike these with the Pumpables Genie Advance. As long as you're doing okay with the tunnel length and the inserts that are compatible with this, it's a pretty good option. It seems to elevate the suction just a little bit. It just has a little bit more bite to it. So if the Genie Advance is just not quite what you were looking for, this might be a really good option. This is our Idaho Jones cup. So the Idaho Jones cup is extremely similar to our Ardo cup. It's going to be functionally the same. It's just kind of drama free. It's a basic cup. We can get sized inserts for it, which is really nice. It just does what it's supposed to do. There's not a lot to say. This is the NCVI cup. This one is a little bit tricky. It's really cheap on Amazon, and I absolutely love it for that. But it is a 28mm flange, so we have to use inserts. And it's been kind of tricky. A lot of people have felt like it was losing a little bit of suction. With the Genie Advanced, it's a decent enough pairing. It does have that shape that people are looking for that we had with the Medela cups. But since it is compatible with the Medela cups, I would go with the Medela cups. The Medela cups and the Pumpables Genie Advance are my favorite cup pairing for this pump. Hands down, nothing beats it. This pairing is kind of like a match made in heaven. It allows us to elevate the suction of the Pumpables Genie Advance just a little bit, so we get just a little bit more suction for a little bit faster emptying. It's not so much that it's kind of changing the pattern, but it's just a little bit stronger, really good cycle speeds. It does a really good job, and these cups are phenomenal. I always hate that they don't pair well with the Baby Buddha because so many people want them to pair well, but it does pair well with the Genie Advance, and it transfers the vibration of the Genie Advance really, really well. The Baby Buddha cup has evidently walked off from my stash of cups, which makes sense given that I work with that all the time. The Baby Buddha cups are compatible with the Pumpables Genie Advance. They do boost the suction just a little bit, so about 10 to 15% higher than what the Genie Advance would normally be pulling with flanges. So if you're somebody who's on the more sensitive side, that pairing may not make sense for you, but it does make sense for people who are like, it's just not quite strong enough, but they want that silicone flange with the larger capacity. So that is my spiel on the Baby Buddha and cups. As you can see, most of them are compatible, so there's just not always a ton to say about cups that work with it, but almost everything on the market works with it. So it's really about what features do you like, do the inserts that you like using fit this cup, how much are the replacement parts gonna cost. Some of these cups are really cheap to keep operating, like they're dirt cheap, and other ones are like the LV Stride, where kind of becomes a line item in a lot of people's budgets. You could easily spend, $100 or more a month keeping parts running for some of these setups. It's just a matter of kind of going over that. Oh, there is one more. I managed to pull it out and not put it up. This is the Fanfiti Rosie cup. I knew there was one more that I was forgetting. So Fanfiti Rosie is one of our newer ones on the market. It's a slim cup. It has a double sealed flange, and the diaphragm on this is really strong, so it gives it kind of like a massage effect. I really like this, particularly on the higher settings of the Pumpables Genie Advance. It does a really good job. It kind of massages as it's pumping, but it's still very, very comfortable. So this one is also relatively inexpensive on Amazon, and is definitely one that the more I work with it, the more I love it. So now that is my spiel on the Genie Advance and the cups. Hopefully this helps you. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you are struggling with cups and the Genie Advance, my recommendation before running out and buying more cups, unless there's like a glaring obvious reason it's not working, book with me. Let's double check what's going on. Let's make sure we know why this cup doesn't work so that the next cup you get is likely to be successful. So Hopefully that helps, and happy pumping.